Such a nice day today that I thought I'd go for a walk in the country. I like to get out at least 2-3 times a week to walk about 5, 6, 7, sometimes 8 miles. But recently it's been really difficult because the weather has been absolutely atrocious, as you know. I did go out last week for a walk, got absolutely covered in mud, but also been really busy. Been delivering a CCTV course, door supervision courses, and I've been at Staffordshire delivering a couple of courses for Staffordshire Police. But it's such a nice day today, I thought I'd get out and go for a stroll, get some exercise, but also de-stress. In a way, this is my moving meditation. But having said that, you talk about stress, we live in a world where we have everything we want. We have mobile phones, we have 100+ channels on TV, we have Xboxes, we have PlayStations. We have a choice of virtually anything we want to do. So much freedom. If I press a button, I can have something delivered to my house maybe tomorrow, sometimes even today, whether it's food or whether it's a book I want, or, you know, so much choice we didn't have 100 years ago. In the last 50 years, technology has just enabled us to do so many things we could not do before. Things that for our grandparents were just unheard of. Even for our parents, maybe, just unheard of. But isn't it strange that in the Western society, so many of us suffer with depression, anxiety, and in fact, suicide is a bigger killer in the West than conflict. And why is that? Well, maybe it's because we live in artificial environments. We live in a concrete block, a concrete cube. And if we're lucky to have windows, we look out the window, we see another concrete cube. And then we walk out of our house, we walk on a concrete pavement, and we might get into not a concrete cube, maybe a steel cube, and drive to work on a concrete road. And then we go to work, and maybe we're working inside. 90% of us, or a vast majority, I should say, work inside. In fact, I was going to say that 90% of people 200 years ago lived in the countryside. They didn't live in towns. The vast majority of today live in towns and cities. And so we move from one concrete block to another concrete block, and we're breathing artificial air. We're drinking artificial water. And if we take a break at lunchtime, we go to a food machine, or we go down to a takeaway, we're eating food packed with vitamins and minerals because they didn't have vitamins and minerals in there in the first place. They're also packed with sugars and E-numbers and preservatives, and so we're eating artificial food. We are living in completely artificial environments. Now, as somebody who studied archaeology at university, I know that for the vast majority of time, we didn't live in towns and cities. We lived in the countryside. And as I said, go back 200 years, the vast majority of us lived in the countryside. Maybe we were peasant farmers, but as far as I know, as far as the records tell us, people weren't committing suicide. They weren't suffering with depression and anxiety like we do. Yes, times were tough, times were hard, but we don't have many records that actually affecting their mental health. They just got on with it. And yes, life was shorter than today. Today we live maybe 90, 100 years. People had shorter lifestyles then, but you know, with all these things we have in our society, that we have so many sick people. Mental illness is absolutely rife. And I speak about this in my book. I mention the reasons why we may suffer mental illness, and I think one of them is not getting outside, not getting out into the countryside. This is our natural environment. You know, as we look around, this is our natural environment. Obviously, there's a road being built over there because concrete seems to get everywhere, but this is our natural environment, and it's out here we should be. This is why ninjutsu has this connection with the countryside. Some of our martial arts, our techniques are named after wild animals, after forces of nature. But anyway, as I say, I come out in the countryside just to meditate, my moving meditation. Actually, just one of the things that came up in my mind. But I want to talk really about what it is I post on the Facebook page this morning, and that is in regard to martial arts and self-defense. So many martial arts, as I said, claim to teach self-defense. It's like a tagline, a marketing ploy. Many years ago when I ran my business, I used to own a shop selling martial art gear, One shop told me, they said, what we do, we put in what I think they call it a lost leader. It was kind of a way of tempting customers. They'd actually advertise something. This is the days before the internet. They would advertise something in the magazine saying they've got the latest book in stock. So people would turn up to the shop to buy the book, and maybe they'd come for miles. But when they got to the shopkeeper would say, oh, we sold the last one about half an hour ago, but we have got this one. And so having spent all that time and effort and money getting to where they wanted to go to pick this book up, knowing it's not valuable, they'd plump for the lesser option. They'd buy a book they didn't really want to buy, but they'd buy it anyway because they put in that time and effort. And it's a marketing ploy. So people sign up for their martial art, they sign up for their self-defense course, and when they get there, when they've paid their membership and they bought their uniform, they then find out actually what's being taught isn't really self-defense, but they stick it anyway because, well, they put out time and effort and money in to get something that they weren't really looking for. Myself as a martial art instructor, it's very important I give to my students those things they want. They may want to learn self-defense, so they've got to learn self-defense. They may want to learn the traditional techniques, and that's fine too. We can look at the densho, we can look at the makimono, we can go through the techniques of the gyoku-ryu, the koto-ryu, the kukushin-den-ryu. We can do that. We can go through koku, renyo, danshu, danshi, sakanagare, kyo, keto, saketsu, yubikadaki, etc. the gyoku-ryu and any other schools as well. We can do that, it's not a problem. But for me, it's important that we deliver the real art of ninjutsu, and the real art of ninjutsu was self-defense. And so the question then comes, well, how do you take a 14th, 15th century, 16th century martial art and make it work today? That's a really good question, because we have the techniques, right? We have the densho, we have the makimono, we have those techniques listed down, but whether they fit in with the 21st century is another thing altogether. So I want to tell you a story. Back in about 2005, 2006, it might have been 2007, I remember sitting in a hotel room with Stephen K. Hayes, the father of American ninjutsu. In fact, I'd say the father of ninjutsu in the Western world. He was the guy who wrote all the books and made ninjutsu famous. And he said this, because we were talking to a book producer. And he said this, he said, imagine you had a time machine and you could travel back in time and take a ninja from the past, maybe Hanzo Otori or Sandai Momochi, and bring him back to the 21st century. How long would it be before he could adapt his martial art to work today, to work in the 21st century? Think about it. People in the past still had 2 arms and 2 legs and a head. They still had the same kind of psychology. They still had the same kind of needs. Some of the tactics might be different. Some of the ways of fighting might be different. But the arm locks still work, right? The wrist locks still work. The tactics and strategies still work. They're still viable. We have to change them slightly because people attack slightly different today. They use shorter knives. They might throw a jab hook rather than a lunging punch, which they did in the old days. So, yeah, we have to adapt it a little bit, but we have to be honest. We have to be able to take those techniques, which we have. Anybody who wants to learn those techniques, let's say, from the 14th, 15th, 16th century, they can do that. We have that material. But what's important is, rather than it just being an antique, something that's just going to die out one day because it has no function, we have to bring it today into the Western world. This is our modern ninjutsu. It's not about throwing out a baby with a bathwater and starting again. No, we have the techniques we can build on. We can make them work today. But anyway, that's just some of my thoughts while out walking the countryside. Get out there, get out in the countryside, de-stress, get some fresh air, and try and live the ninja. Try and go into the world. Okay, thank you.